he's not in any way hateful toward the Jewish community. In fact, the majority of Jewish New Yorkers supported him in the mayoral race, in the primary specifically. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't really get the vibe that he's a hateful guy. I do get the vibe that he's very idealistic.
Ana Kasparian of the Young Turks was a guest on Tomi Lahren show to talk about a variety of topics. Ana Kasparian and Tomi Lahren debated for close to an hour. If you want to watch the whole thing, you can go to the Tomi Lahren is Fearless YouTube channel. I wanted to focus on a couple of different topics here, show you a couple of different clips. So we're going to take a look at part of this debate between Ana Kasparian and far-right MAGA pundit Tomi Lahren. I'm going to share my thoughts as well. Let's get into it together.
I also want to talk about Zohran Mandani, and I don't know how you feel about him. But, you know, there's some concerning things here. And I watched the debate last week, and looking at it from someone's perspective who doesn't, you know, I tried to look at it as somebody who lived in New York that wasn't as read into all of his past as I am. And I thought, wow, this guy is dangerous because he sure sounded good. And I think people listening to it that are frustrated about affordability and other things, I think they would have listened to him and said, he's not so bad. And I think he is that bad, though. So I'm wondering your take on his performance and if you would like to see him win the race in New York.
Well, when you look at the contenders, I would never vote for Cuomo in a million years. And Sliwa doesn't appear to have a chance. So, and out of the three, I do think that Mamdani would be the better, candidate, a better mayor. I'm curious what you don't like about him, because it really depends on who you're talking to. And when it comes to the political establishments, whether you're talking about Democrats or Republicans, by the way, they seem to have a lot of hate toward him because of the fact that he hasn't expressed fealty to Israel, which as a mayoral candidate, I don't even know why that's something that's even being asked of him or any mayoral candidate. But if you have issues with particular policy proposals, I'm super curious which ones, because I actually think some of his policy proposals are a little shaky. And I'm wondering if we have similarities there.
Yeah, there's a lot of policy proposals that I think are a little shaky. And I would say this, I don't think it's that he needs to bend the knee to Israel. If that's not his thing and that's not where his allegiance lies, then I understand it. And I don't think that it necessarily should. It should be to the United States of America and to New York City. I think what's concerning about him is some of his past rhetoric and, the failure to condemn, globalize the Intifada and some of his shaky statements there. When you've got the largest Jewish population in the world outside of Israel in New York City, I do think at some point you need to address the things that you've said in the past. And speaking of, social media posts that were not that long ago, his social media posts from 2020, 2021 are very concerning. And I know that he's trying to clean that up now, but I think it's really hard to go from the NYPD is racist and they're not for queer liberation and all this stuff to, no, I respect them, and make that leap. It feels a little disingenuous. He was asked how he got there, and he didn't give a clear answer on that. And as far as his policy proposals go, I think it sounds great to say we're going to have free buses and we're going to have grocery stores and we're going to have childcare and all those things. But when it comes to how are you going to pay for it, and his only answer is raise taxes, but he doesn't have the power to do that, I think he's making a lot of false promises that unfortunately people are going to fall for. And I'm sure you probably share some of the same concerns.
Oh, totally. I mean, look, there's a lot that he has proposed that I do like. Well, it's really about the devil in the details, right? So I was first and foremost worried that he was going to cut the police budget. And we did that in Los Angeles in 2021. When I say we, I mean the city council. They cut the police budget to the tune of $150 million. And as a result, taxpayers in the city ended up spending far more on policing because we didn't have enough sworn officers to carry out the duties necessary in a city as big as Los Angeles. So the remaining sworn officers had to work extra overtime hours, which costs a lot more. And so it's not economically sound policy, but also it led to increased wait times if you call 911 and you need a police officer to show up. So I was actually very worried that he was going to follow in the failed footsteps of the LA City Council. And he has reeled in some of the anti-police rhetoric. And what he's actually proposing now, which I fully do support, I think this is a smart policy, rather than getting rid of cops, he promised not to fire or lay off a single police officer, NY police officer. And then in addition to that, he wants to add social workers within the department to go to calls alongside the sworn officers if it's like a mental health emergency. I think that's a smart idea. But also, yeah, I mean, how are you going to pay for it? If you're planning on raising taxes, you're going to need a lot more buy-in. You can't do that unilaterally. Obviously, you're going to need, policymakers and lawmakers locally to agree with you on that policy.
I totally agree with Ana Kasparian and with Tomi Lahren here, to her credit, on the Israel aspect of Mandani. I thought it was great in the one debate where Cuomo and Mandani and whoever the other candidates who were there, all the rest of them were falling all over themselves to say, that they couldn't wait to go and visit Israel once they're the mayor. And Mandani said, hey, I'm going to be the mayor of New York City. What does going to a foreign country, any foreign country, really have to do with that? My job is to work for the people of New York City, which I thought was wonderful. New York has much more dealing with Canada than they do Israel. I mean, logically, just geographically, trade and all of that. But do they say, hey, what's your policy about going to visit with Canada? No. So to me, the anti-Israel criticism of Mandani is absolutely insane. And this definitely should be an America first thing. And there should be 100 policies that the mayor of New York is asked about before Israel ever comes up, in my opinion. In terms of the how do you pay for it? That is the Republican Party in a nutshell. I just had a conversation last night with a family member where I was talking about this, and I said, imagine if libraries did not exist and you had a politician saying, you know what, I'm going to have a place where everybody can go and they can get books for free. They won't have to pay for it. Imagine Fox News and all the right-wingers on Twitter or Facebook or wherever. This communist wants to give books away for free. Don't they know that nothing is free? Somebody's paying for that, blah, blah, blah. I mean, or city parks or state parks or federal parks. You mean you want to have a place where people can go and they don't have to pay a fee to get in? I guess federal parks, people, there are fees sometimes, but like a local city park where you could just go and walk your dog and take a walk and look at trees or whatever, and you don't have to pay a fee to get in. Imagine if that concept didn't exist and Bernie or AOC or Mandani was saying, I think we should have a place where there's grass and trees and you could just go and it wouldn't cost you anything. It would just be paid for by tax dollars. And Tomi Lahren and all the rest of the right-wingers, their heads would just explode. But that's basically where we are in our country now. If you propose anything, we're going to have kids get free school lunch. How are you going to pay for that? Who pays for that? Is there anything that right-wingers, Republicans, MAGA, all the people like Tomi Lahren want to actually be provided to citizens that they won't have to pay to some company or pay a fee for, that it's just covered by their tax dollars? Is there anything? I guess police and military. But other than that, anything that makes your life actually enjoyable, a theater, again, a park, libraries, anything like that you could go and not have to pay a fee to get in. Does Tomi Lahren or any of the rest of the right wing support anything like that? No. So if you talk about free buses covered by tax dollars, of course, Tomi Lahren is against that.
I think he's charismatic enough to maybe accomplish that. When it comes to the free buses, though, I'm not ideologically against free buses. It's just that the way the public transportation is funded is mostly through people paying their fares. So I'm okay with subsidizing fares for low-income individuals. But if you don't have a real policy in place to help fund and maintain the public transportation, that can kind of end up being disastrous. So I have areas with him where I agree, areas where I disagree. But overall, the globalized intifada thing, he actually has finally come out and condemned it. I think it was like a huge, ridiculous wedge issue that in the end of the day doesn't really matter. He's not in any way hateful toward the Jewish community. In fact, the majority of Jewish New Yorkers supported him in the mayoral race, in the primary specifically. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't really get the vibe that he's a hateful guy. I do get the vibe that he's very idealistic. And sometimes having an idealistic mind as someone who's going to lead a big city could have some serious repercussions. So I would say he needs to proceed with caution and look to other big blue cities that implemented similar policies that maybe didn't work out and recalibrate. So these solutions actually do end up being solutions in New York.
Yeah, I just don't see wealthy New Yorkers. He can't do it anyway, but even if he were to miraculously convince Hochul that we're going to just raise all these taxes and all this, I don't see the rich and wealthy. I don't see all of them staying there. I'm sure some will because they love New York, but I see a lot of them leaving because why would they shoulder that burden? They don't have to. They're rich. They can go to West Palm Beach and the weather's nicer. Right? I don't see that being just a viable solution to pay for everything. And some of the things that he's said do concern me. I know he's playing cleanup now, and it's weird to me. It's like, at first, when he did that interview with Martha MacCallum last week, like he wouldn't condemn Hamas when he was asked repeatedly. He just wouldn't say it. And then he gets to the debate and then he'll say it a little bit more. It's like he realizes that he has to be a little bit stronger in some of his language. And I just don't think it comes from a genuine place, and that concerns me. But I'm also curious what you think about him becoming kind of the face of the Democrat Party. When you don't actually have a leader, then the leaders are going to be Mandani, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Jasmine Crockett. And I know that the right loves that, because I think if those people are going to be the face of the Democrat Party, so far removed from especially middle America and the swing states, that's great for Republicans. I don't think it's so great for Democrats.
I think AOC is actually making a huge miscalculation. That I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Maybe you'll be the first on the right to report on this, but AOC has started to make a completely different political calculation. And it appears to me that she's trying to ingratiate herself with the old guard Democratic establishment as she potentially and very likely seeks higher office. So I see her as someone who's actually significantly moderated her views, whereas the success or lack of success of Mamdani's mayoral leadership is really going to determine whether his brand of leadership is going to essentially be the identity of the Democratic Party. Right now, there's pretty much a fight for the identity of the Democratic Party. And I think the old guard establishment variety is really losing a lot of favorability with Democratic voters, which is why you're seeing Schumer put up this fight, by the way, when it comes to the government funding bill. But with Mamdani, that's why I say he needs to look at some of the cities who have implemented similar policies that failed, so he can recalibrate and do this in a smart, nuanced way so it actually works. Because if his policies don't work, if things actually end up worsening on the ground in New York City, the Democrats are fully cooked. I don't really know what the identity of the Democratic Party is going to be. And I honestly think the best way to move forward is to have conversations with people who disagree with you constantly, have your ideas challenged, talk to your constituents, and see if they're actually liking the way these policies are implemented.
And Tomi Lahren, first with the Democratic Party, and she does the 8th grade thing that all of MAGA and the Republicans do, the Democrat Party. Anyway, the Democratic Party, she makes out like it would be a bad thing if Bernie Sanders and AOC would be the face of the party, when I think that would be a great thing. And I think that's what most Democrats or people actually on the left would like to see happen, is people with policies like Bernie Sanders, policies that actually benefit regular people instead of the super rich and large corporations. That's what most people want to see. So if the Democratic Party actually went in that direction, instead of doing what all of the media and of course all the right wingers want them to do, is to continue being centrist, because that's a way that Republicans can beat the Democrats. If the Democrats actually moved in a progressive direction, they would do better in elections, in my opinion. The other thing that Tomi Lahren brings up is one of the favorite tropes of Republicans and MAGA. If you raise taxes, all of the rich people would leave. Tomi Lahren says they're rich. They could just go to Palm Beach or I don't know if she said Palm Beach or Palm Springs. They could do that right now. They're rich. They probably have houses there already. But, in the United States, there was a period of time from the 40s to the early 80s where we had a top marginal tax rate of anywhere between 70 and 91%. And guess what? Rich people didn't leave. They stayed in the United States. They didn't flee the country. And the largest middle class that the world has ever seen, and the most powerful middle class that the world has ever seen, was built during that time. And the right wing has been fighting against that ever since, chipping away and chipping away and chipping away at that middle class. So Tomi Lahren, all the rest of the right wing, love to throw out this trope. And Mandani isn't even talking about a tax increase anywhere near that. He's talking about a couple of percent. He brought up, I forget which rich guy it was who is railing against Mandani. And Mandani said the guy is actually spending more to defeat Mandani than what Mandani would raise his taxes. So I thought this was an interesting conversation between Ana Kasparian and Tomi Lahren. I feel like I say this every time I do a video that involves Ana Kasparian. I know a lot of people on the left are upset with her and she's kind of dead to them. And she's definitely playing this both sides thing now. But she does make some good points here, I feel. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with Ana Kasparian, what she had to say? Do you agree with what Tomi Lahren had to say on her show here? Tomi Lahren is fearless. Again, if you want to watch the whole thing, you can go to Tomi Lahren's channel. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I am Chris on Culture, and I'll see you in the next video.